예, 그러니까 그때는 제가 어딜 가도 이렇게 이런 관객들과 만남을 하면 사인해달라고 오는 분들이 되게 문신 많고 가죽 잠바 입고 사인을 해달라고 해도 그 장도리 가져와서 거기다 해달라고 하고 되게 그런 분들이 많았어요.
Yes, so back then, wherever I went, if I was to do a Q&A with the audience like this, the most of the people who would come up for autographs would be all these people with tattoos and leather jackets, asking me to sign their hammers.
그래서 참 좀 무서웠고요.
So that got me a little scared.
뭐
Good afternoon, my name is Mark Salisbury. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Park Chan-wook. So you can clap. And this is Wonjo, who is Park's producer and translator. We've got about an hour and 15 minutes. There will be time for audience questions later. We do have some clips. Park, welcome. Wonjo, welcome. I'd like to start talking about you're a philosophy student, and I think at the age of 22, you saw Vertigo for the first time on a very ropey video copy with no subtitles, and that completely changed your life and made you want to be a filmmaker, and you started a film club and then became a film critic and then subsequently a director. Why Vertigo? What was it that was so special?
그 영화를 보기 전에는 영화 일을 하고 싶긴 했는데 용기를 내지 못했어요. 그 영화 감독이라는 일이 내가 감당할 수 있는 일인지에 대해.
Before that movie, Vertigo, I had always wanted to work in the film industry, but I didn't have the courage.
그런데 그 영화를 보는 중에 이제 영화가 시작한 지 글쎄 뭐 1시간도 되지 않았을 때 한창 그 지미 스튜어트가 그 킴 노박을 이렇게 운전해서 따라 미행할 때 그렇게 샌프란시스코의 그 길을 천천히 가고 뭐 박물관에 들어가고 그런 장면을 보는데 내가 그 영화를 보는 게 아니라 꿈을 꾸고 있는 것 그 꿈을 꾸는 기분이 들더라고요.
So, but while I was watching that movie, not even 1 hour into the movie, you know, when Jimmy Stewart is chasing Kim Novak, driving slowly behind her, and on the streets of San Francisco, going into the museum and whatnot, I got the feeling that I'm not watching a movie, but I'm dreaming a dream.
꿈속에서 내가 그 지미 스튜어트와 함께 어딘가를 가고 있는 그런 것 같은 환각에 잠깐 빠졌어요. 약을 한 것도 아니었는데.
No, I wasn't on drugs, but I had this feeling that I was in a dream, and I'm driving around in this car with Jimmy Stewart.
그런 신비한 체험을 하고 나서 이 영화라는 일이 어떤 어려움이 있더라도 용기가 나지 않더라도 한번 그 덤벼들어 봐야 되겠다. 한번 그 속에 한번 뛰어들어 봐야 되겠다 하는 그런 결심을 하게 됐어요. 영화 보는 중에.
So having had this kind of mystifying experience, I decided right there and then, while I was watching that movie before it was finished, that no matter what difficulties that I might imagine about jumping into that industry, no matter how I didn't feel I had the courage, it really made me think that I should try and take the plunge and try it.
그 작품이 인생의 영화가 맞기는 맞는 것이 그 영화 보고 나서 이제 대학생들 몇 명이 모여서 본 건데요. 보고 나서 이제 뭐 간단한 토론을 하고 그리고 나가서 스낵을 먹었는데 그때 소개받은 처음 인사를 나눈 사람 중에 이제 훗날 지금의 제 와이프가 된 사람이 거기 있었어요. 처음 인사를 한 것입니다. 그날.
Now that was the movie of my life, really, and I think it's especially so because I saw that movie with fellow university students. There were a handful of us, and after the movie was finished, we went to this little place where we can get some snacks and drinks, and we started talking about the movie, and that's when I met this young woman who would later become my wife. So that was the first time I met her as well.
A big day. You say you didn't have the courage, and you also there's a quote you said I thought only tough guys made films. What was your why? Why did you think that all directors were big, strong, tough guys?
그 영화에 대해서 한국에서는 약간 좀 근데 그때는 그런 시대는 이미 지난 지 한참 됐을 때인데도 어른들은 우리 부모 세대는 옛날 그러니까 60년대 생각을 하면서 뭔가 그 막 갱스터들이 막 좌지우지하고 그런 인더스트리라고는 인식을 갖고들 있었어요. 그래서 그때 한국 영화는 참 그 대중이 존중하지 않는 그런 예술이었는데 다 외국 영화만 좋아하고 그래서 좀 그런 좀 거친 세계인 줄 알았죠.
Right. Now, by that time, this kind of notorious era of Korean industry had already become something of the past. But my parents, one generation above me, they had this perception of the film industry from 1950s, 1960s Korea, where the industry was in the grips of the gangsters, and gangsters would have their sway in terms of the whole film industry. So they had this perception, and they didn't look upon the industry with favorable eyes. And back then, back when I decided to become a filmmaker, even then, even though the industry was no longer something that was in the hands of the gangsters only, but public perception was that they didn't really respect cinema as an art form, and they would only look to films from overseas, and didn't at all have any respect for the domestic films or in its industry.
Okay. So jumping ahead slightly, you made your first two features. I think the first one is 1992 and then 97. And they weren't particularly successful in Korea.
예, 좀 뛰어넘는 김에 좀 더 많이 뛰어넘으시는 게 어떨까요?
Well, while you're at it, why don't we just jump ahead into much later?
But there's something I want to say. That I read that you went back to being a film critic. And you reviewed one of your own films under a pseudonym. And I wonder what kind of review you gave it.
그런 얘기 어디서 들으셨어요?
Where did you get this?
I do my research.
그러니까 정확히 말하면 이런 거예요. 제 친구가 비평가였는데 너무 친하니까 친구 작품을 대해서 뭐라 이러쿵저러쿵 쓰기 어렵다는 거예요. 그 저의 데뷔작이었는데 그러면서 그래서 근데 제 영화에 대한 리뷰라는 게 하나도 없었어요. 딱 한 번 나올 기회였는데 그걸 안 쓰겠다고 하는 거예요. 다른 작품을 쓰겠다고. 그래서 그걸 안 되지. 그러면서 내가 써줄게. 그렇게 해서 시작된 일이었습니다.
Well, to tell you the exactly how it went down, a friend of mine was a film critic, and he was such a good friend of mine that he came up to me and said, "Well, look, I've been given this assignment to review your movie, but I'm a good friend of yours. I can't bring myself to write this, so I'm not gonna write it." But back then, there were no reviews of my film at all, and this was the only opportunity to get any review out there. So I said, "Well, don't give up. I'll write it for you."
그래서 뭐 놀랄 만한 신인이 나타났다. 뭐 그런 글을 썼죠.
So I wrote the review which said, "Well, new amazing talent has arrived in that scene."
그리고 그게 그 친구 이름은 이제 발표가 됐고 그게 제가 영화 리뷰를 쓴 그러니까 글을 쓴 공식적으로 어디 발표되는 글을 쓴 첫 번째 사건이었고요.
So that review went out under his name, and that was the first ever time when anything that I wrote was published officially.
그리고 그 제 첫 영화를 대상으로 다룬 유일한 비평이었죠.
And that was the only review that was ever written about my first film.
그래서 동료나 후배 감독들이 나쁜 리뷰를 받고 상처받아서 막 슬퍼하고 있을 때 제가 해주는 말은 그겁니다. 리뷰가 전혀 없는 영화를 만든 적도 있다 나는. 뭐 아무리 나쁜 리뷰라도 그거 감사하게 이렇게 생각할 줄 알아야 한다.
So when my colleagues and those younger filmmakers come to me and all upset saying that I got all these bad reviews, I would tell them that, well, you've never made any film, you've never made a film that had no reviews. Having a review is better than no review.
Cool. Well, your third film, people did review all around the world, and it was JSA, and we're going to see a clip from JSA now. So stylistically, it's much more formal than your subsequent films, but it was a very important one for you, but also for your country, wasn't it?
예, 그렇죠. 예, 분단 상황이라는 것이 한국 그러니까 남한 사람들한테 그 알게 모르게 영향을 많이 주고 있거든요.
Yeah, that's right. The situation where the North and South Korea are divided is affecting people living in South Korea, whether they realize it, whether they feel it or not.
뭐 제일 쉽게 말해서 군사비로 나가는 돈만 해도 어마어마하니까 그 돈이 만약에 없다면 만약 그 돈이 복지에 사용된다면 정말 남한 사회 그 극빈층들 문제는 다 해결되겠죠.
Well, to give you the easiest example to comprehend that we spend enormous amount of the country's budget on the military, and if we were able to save on all that, we would be able to spend that money in social welfare. And this problem we have of the very poor in our society, we could perhaps address all that.
그래서 모두가 통일 하나가 되는 것을 원해요. 남한이든 북한이든 모든 사람이 아마 설문조사하면은 거의 뭐 90% 이상이 원한다고 할 거예요.
And that's why everyone, regardless whether they are North Koreans or South Koreans, they want to be become one again, and they want reunification. If we conduct any survey, we would get over 90% response saying that they would support, they would want reunification.
그런데 체제는 사실 그것을 말로만 그 정부에 있는 사람들이나 뭐 이런 사람들은 다 말로만 우리도 통일을 원한다고 하지만 실제로 통일을 위해서 이 무언가를 하진 않아요.
But the regimes, both North and South, they only say they want reunification, but they don't do anything toward it.
그냥 현상을 유지하는 데서 이익을 얻고 싶어 하는 거죠.
They only look to gain from maintaining status quo.
그러면서 서로를 악마화하죠.
And while doing so, they only demonize each other.
저만 해도 어렸을 때 그런 교육을 많이 받았어요. 북한 사람들을 괴물이나 악마로 묘사하는 그런 포스터, 경연대회, 운변대회, 그런 것들 하면서 그런 거 해서 모든 초등학생들이 그런 거 해서 뽑아서 상 주고 뭐 이런 거죠.
And even when I was little, I had the experience where I went through that sort of education where, as a primary school student, we were all asked to depict North Koreans as the devils, and we're asked to draw. There will be competitions too, where we draw posters depicting North Koreans as demons, and we would hold speech competitions where the speeches will be all about how North Koreans are evil.
6, 70년대만 해도 북한 사람을 뭐 긍정적이기는커녕 그냥 보통 사람 비슷하게만이라도 묘사하면 감독들이 감옥에 가곤 했어요.
Just in the 1960s and the 70s, if anyone, like if filmmakers were to depict the North Koreans as not even in positive light, but if we were to depict them as just ordinary human being, it would be enough to land you in prison.
군복 인민군 장교가 군복만 멋있게 입고 나와도 지나치게 멋있게 묘사했다고 감옥에 정보부에 끌려가서 맞고 나오고 감독들이 그랬던 시절이었죠.
Those were the times when film directors would be dragged away by the domestic intelligence agency just for having had a North Korean military officer character dressed up nicely.
어쨌든 그래서 그러던 시절에 이제 이렇게 북한 사람들, 특히 북한 군인들임에도 불구하고 북한 사람을 이렇게 보통 사람처럼 묘사하고 그들과 우정을 나누는 그런 영화를 만든다는 것은 정말 큰 용기를 필요로 하는 일이었습니다.
So it was so back in those times, even though these North Korean characters are depicting these North Koreans and soldiers at that, depicting them as ordinary people, and not stopping there, but developing friendship with the South Koreans, that was something that required a lot of courage.
그래서 이 영화의 프로듀서와 저는 이제 영화 만들어 놓고 국가보안법 위반으로 감옥에 갈 수도 있다. 그런 각오를 다지면서 술 한잔 하면서 영화 시작하는 그런 의식을 한 적이 있을 만큼 겁먹고 시작했던 일이죠.
And the producer of this film and I were so scared that we had this ritual before going to shoot where we said, well, when we finish making this movie, when we release it, we might end up in jail for going against the National Security Act, and we would just hold our drinks and toast to that and try to get some courage.
Well, fortunately, you didn't end up in jail. It was a huge hit. and then you followed it up with a film that became the first in your kind of Vengeance trilogy. So that's Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, and that is our next clip. So, rewatching all your films before interviewing you, I noticed there's green everywhere throughout your films. It's got green hair, there's green floor. In Stoker, there's green walls. Every single one of your films has a bit of green pretty much in every single shot. What is it with the colour green?
보통 이제 우리가 뭐 말을 할 때 무슨 그린 에너지다 뭐다 할 때 이렇게 이제 그런 자연 친화적이고 뭔가 밝고 희망과 생명을 상징하는 그런 색으로 많이들 사용하지 않습니까?
When we say the word green, we use it to refer to. It has a positive connotation, right? Like when we say green energy and so on, we have this image where we associate the word to being something that is very eco-friendly, it's very bright, very hopeful, and it signifies life, right?
그렇지만 그거는 그냥 관습일 뿐이고 사실 뭐 꼭 그러라는 법은 없는 거죠. 저는 이상하게 그린 하면은 꼭 뭔가 썩어가는 것, 죽음 그런 느낌을 반대로 통념하고는 반대로 그런 느낌을 받곤 했거든요.
But that's only a convention. There's no rule that says that it has to mean those things. For me, strangely, it always meant something that's quite the opposite, like things that are rotting or things that are dying away.
그래서 그런 좀 보통의 통념과는 다른 반대되는 사용을 하는 것이 시각적으로 좀 더 좀 기분 나쁘게 만드는 효과를 불편하게 만드는 효과를 주지 않을까 생각했어요.
So to use the color green in the opposite context from how it's conventionally perceived, I thought I would be able to make things more creepy or uncomfortable visually.
그래서 이 영화를 찍을 때는 조명 그 라이트에도 그린 필터를 대고 찍어서 이렇게 안부에 그늘진 부분이 시커먼 게 아니라 약간 그 그린이 묻은 그런 블랙이죠. 그런 것을 사용한다든가 주인공의 머리 색깔을 염색을 그렇게 한다든가 하는 식의 시도를 했습니다.
And in this movie, when I was lighting my scenes, I had green filters on the lights, and even in the blacks, I would make sure that where the shadows are, it's not just black, but there will be green in the black that you see. And also with the protagonist's hair, I had dyed it green and so forth.
그리고 그런 것 비슷하게 연장선상에서 그 아름다운 풍경이 펼쳐진 그런 자연 있잖아요. 시골 그런 강 조그만 이게 그 시냇물이 흐르는 이런 그런 곳이야말로 되게 또 그 물과 자연 이런 것이 이제 생명과 연관되는 법인데 역시 저는 이 영화에서는 그런 곳에서 죽음이 벌어지는 그리고 시체가 썩어가는 그런 좀 상반되는 표현을 좀 하려고 했습니다.
And by way of extension, in a similar way, you know when you see the scenery of the rural areas, you see these beautiful waters and trees and the greens. You associate, of course, the stream that you see in there, everything that's so natural. It is supposed to usually associate these things with life. But I wanted to subvert that idea and turn it into a scene of death where bodies are rotting away.
It feels a much more stylish movie than JSA, like you were kind of pushing yourself. So can you talk about a little bit about your process, how you work with your DP and your production designer, and whether you storyboard all those shots? Because everything looks very incredibly composed.
예, JSA는 뭔가 제가 이제 정치적으로 하고 싶은 얘기가 많은 작품이었고, 관객한테 좀 친근하게 다가가서 좀 그 관객의 마음을 열고 제가 하고 주장하는 이야기를 좀 설득력 있게 말하고 싶었던 그런 영화였다면, 이제 이 복수 나의 것은 그것과는 그런 필요는 없는 영화였어요. 이것은 좀 더 개인적인 영화고 좀 더 뭐랄까요, 좀 더 대담해도 되는 그런 영화라고 봤습니다.
With JSA, I had things that I wanted to say. There were many things that I wanted to say politically, and I thought that a way to do it was to become very kind to the audience and try and open their heart and make it heard what I wanted to say, all these statements, in a very convincing way. With Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, I thought that I didn't need to be like that. It's a much more personal film, and I thought I could be more bold with it.
그래서 그렇지만 어쨌든 중요한 것은 형식적으로는 그 작품의 스토리와 감정에 어울리는 형식이 무엇이냐를 찾는 거죠.
But what's important is that stylistically, what best serves the narrative and the characters. That's the most important thing.
그래서 JSA는 아까 보신 것처럼 사람들 사이, 그러니까 네 명의 그러니까 남북한 병사들 병사들 사이에 하나가 되는 것, 적대하는 두 그룹이 하나가 되는 것을 중시했기 때문에 이렇게 원형 움직임을 많이 쓰고, 그러다가 갑자기 탁 중단되면서 커팅되고, 그런 형식을 좀 주요한 형식으로 사용했다면.
So with JSA, as it was important to tell a story where these four people between North and South Korean soldiers who are supposed to belong to these groups of people who are opposed to each other. Because of the story is about them becoming one, I used a lot of circular camera movement, and then I would stop and then cut out of it, etc. So if that's the stylistically what I had chosen to use for JSA.
복수 나의 것은 좀 건조하고 객관적이고 그런 느낌을 주고 싶었어요. 남한의 자본주의 사회의 그 아주 황량하고 삭막한 풍경을 보여주고 싶었기 때문에.
With Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, I wanted to give the kind of objective sort of feel to how everything is observed. I wanted to make it very dry, to depict this capitalistic South Korean society, how it can be so barren and feel very inhuman.
그래서 카메라 움직임이 별로 없고 광각 렌즈를 많이 쓰고 그리고 이렇게 편집이 눈에, 그러니까 관객한테 편집이 아주 눈에 띄게 그 어떻게 커트가 붙었는지 잘 모르게 스무스하게 넘어가는 게 전통적인 잘하는 편집이라면, 이 영화에서는 뚝뚝 끊어지는 단절감이 강조되도록 그렇게 했습니다.
So in terms of the camera movement, there is a lot of locked off camera, so you don't see the camera moving so much in that film. And I used a lot of wide lenses. And in terms of editing, where it's traditionally considered that the less you notice the cuts, the better it is, better editing it is. but I consciously emphasized that feeling of there being a lot of cuts, that the kind of cuts that you feel that there is a cut.
Well, the next clip there's I think no cuts in. So can we show the next clip? This is from Old Boy. I remember seeing that at the Cannes Film Festival and people clapping after that sequence, and justifiably. It's extraordinary. How long did you prepare that shot? How many takes? And is it true you kind of wore your actor down because you thought it was better?
제가 잘 숫자를 잘 기억을 못해서 이게 그러니까 원래는 그 여러 개의 샷으로 수십 개 샷으로 이루어진 씬이었어요.
I can't remember the exact number, but it was originally planned as a sequence involving very many shots.
그랬는데 그래서 이제 그 다 잘게 쪼개진 것이면 어쨌든 전체 하나의 흐름이잖아요. 그래서 배우가 저 이제 스턴트 팀하고 뭐 그 무술 감독하고 같이 몇 달 동안 연습을 했죠.
But even if it was planned as a sequence with numerous shots, it's a sequence. So the actor trained with the stunt team in terms of the action choreography for months and months.
한 석 달 정도 연습을 했은 것 같고요.
For around 3 months.
그리고 이제 촬영을 들어갔을 때 뭐 제가 여기저기서 많이 얘기했지만 처음에 이제 이 마스터샷을 하나 찍어 놓겠다라는 생각을 했습니다.
And well, I've talked about this sequence quite a lot here and there, but when we went into shoot, I said, well, I'm going to start with a master shot.
그래서 한 번에 카메라가 쭉 이동하면서 전체를 담아낸다. 그런데 그 모든 합이 다 맞으라는 법이 없으니까 그 맞긴 불가능하니까 조금씩 중간중간 틀리더라도 무시하고 그런 틀린 부분들은 클로즈업들을 다 찍을 거니까 그러니까 이제 쭉 그냥 끊지 않고 찍어보자 이렇게 얘기를 한 거죠.
So the plan was to basically follow the action along the corridor in one long take in this master shot. And usually it's very difficult to get all the choreography right in this long and complicated action sequence. So I said to them, it doesn't matter if you get things wrong. We will be doing close-ups later on, and we can cut it in. So don't worry if you get it wrong. Just let's try to do it till the end of the sequence.
그러다가 이제 이런 일이 시작된 거예요. 그 마스터샷을 위한 이제 연습 리허설을 하는 중에 제가 이제 이걸 하나로 붙여서 찍겠다는 생각을 하게 된 거고요. 그래서 이제 재앙이 시작된 거죠.
That's where it all began, really. During the rehearsal, because of the master shot, they had to rehearse the entire thing. And while they were doing the rehearsal, it got me thinking, and that's when all this disaster started.
그래서 실제로는 몇 번 테이크 찍었던 것 같습니다.
I think when we tackled it, we were able to get it in
몇 번 잘 기억 안 나는데.
more than 10 something takes.
What did you think of the American remake?
실망시켜드려서 죄송합니다만 사실 제가 못 봤습니다.
I'm sorry to disappoint you all, but I haven't seen it yet.
그게 한국 개봉할 때 제가 어디 외국에 있었던가 뭐 하여간 뭐 바쁜 일이 있어서 놓쳤고요. 사실 꼭 보고 싶어요. 정말 내가 좋아하는 감독이고 좋아하는 배우들이기 때문에. 근데 계속 기회가 안 되네요. 꼭 조만간 블루레이를 보려고 합니다.
When it was released in Korea, I must have been out of the country or something, and I lost a chance to see it in the cinema. and I never got the chance afterwards to really go and see it. But it's something that I really want to see. It's a film director that I really admire, and actors I really like. So I guess better catch it on Blu-ray or something.
Yes. There's no giant ant. They took that sequence out.
What? Sorry, what?
In his version, there's a giant ant on the subway,
Right.
and they didn't make the American version.
거대한 거미는
어.
came in.
So with Sympathy, Old Boy, and then Lady Vengeance, which came next, you got this reputation of being a very kind of ultra-violent filmmaker, which seemed rather unfair.
좀 불공평한 처사라고 생각해요.
What did you think about that at the time?
그래서 감독님 그때는 어떤 기분이셨습니까?
예, 그러니까 그때는 제가 어딜 가도 이렇게 이런 관객들과 만남을 하면 사인해달라고 오는 분들이 되게 문신 많고 가죽 잠바 입고 사인을 해달라고 해도 그 장도리 가져와서 거기다 해달라고 하고 되게 그런 분들이 많았어요.
Yes. So back then, wherever I went, if I was to do a Q&A with the audience like this, most of the people who would come up for autographs would be all these people with tattoos and leather jackets, asking me to sign their hammers.
그래서 참 좀 무서웠고요.
So that got me a little scared.
뭐 그리고 하여간 저는 꼭 제 영화가 꼭 그런 내용으로만 가득 찬 건 아닌데 기자분들도 질문이 다 그런 식이었고 그래서 좀 언제까지나 이렇게 영화를 만들어서 안 되겠구나는 생각을 하게 됐죠.
So I got to thinking, well, my films are not all about that kind of thing, and but all the journalists' questions will be centered around that as well. So I said to myself, well, this can't go on.
아마 그래서 레이디 벤전스는 물론 그것도 폭력적인 영화긴 하지만 그래도 여성 주인공인 영화였고요. 그렇게 좀 선회하게 된 계기도 사실 그런데 일부 있습니다.
So even though it's still quite violent, that's probably a catalyst for me to think about making a film in Lady Vengeance where there's a female protagonist and for me to take a turn.
제 영화들이 아무리 겉으로 그렇게 폭력적으로 보여도 그 핵심에는 항상 그 사랑, 로맨스 이런 것이 자리 잡고 있다고 저는 믿거든요.
Even though ostensibly my films may look very violent, I believe that in the core there's love and romance.
Yeah.
Well, after Lady Vengeance, you made a romantic comedy,
Yes.
I'm a Cyborg, which I think is a film you made so your daughter could see one of your films. But it's still a romantic comedy about a man who thinks that people are stealing his identity and a woman who thinks she's a robot.
그 영화, 그러니까 제가 항상 그 미성년자 불가 영화만 만들다 보니까 어린 딸이 제 영화를 막상 아빠 영화인데 하나도 볼 수가 없는 거예요.
It's because I was making all these films that are R-rated. My young daughter couldn't see any of the films that her daddy made.
올보이를 칸에서 상영할 때 와이프하고 딸하고 같이 레드카펫에 올라가는데 다 올라간 다음에는 그 딸아이만 그때 뭐 10살도 안 됐을 때니까 딸아이만 이렇게 다른 그 스태프들이 데리고 도로 내려와서 호텔로 가서 재웠던 그런 일도 있었습니다.
And in Old Boy, back when I was at Cannes with Old Boy, I was walking the red carpet with my wife and my daughter. But once I made it to the top of the steps, the staff member would come and take my daughter by the hand and take her back to the hotel. and put her to bed while we were all watching the movie at the Lumiere.
그래서 제 딸아이가 이제 사춘기 소녀가 돼가고 있는데 제일 좋아하는 영화는 캐리비안의 해적이었고, 그래서 야, 아빠 영화를 보지도 못하고 제일 좋아하는 영화는 캐리비안의 해적이고, 그러니까 이거 안 되겠다 해서 하나를 만든 거죠.
So when my daughter reached around the age of puberty, here she was, whose favorite film would be Pirates of the Caribbean, and I thought that, well, here's my daughter who hasn't seen any of her daddy's films, and her favorite film is Pirates of Caribbean. So I had to do something about it.
And what did you think about Cyborg, with a heroine who shoots bullets out of her fingers and spends all the time in an insane asylum?
이렇게 정신병원에 있고 막 이렇게. Sorry, I first part.
What did she think of the film?
딸이 어떻게 생각했는지.
예.
정신병원에서 이제 캐릭터들이 있고.
예. 아주 좋아했어요. 예. 그 남자 주인공이 한국 최고의 그 가수면서 배우 스타였고, 그 영화가 귀여우니까 다행히도 참 좋아해 줬습니다.
She really liked it. The male star of the film. He was the biggest star in Korea at the time. Very famous actor as well as a singer. And she liked it because the film was cute and everything.
You soon went back to darkness though, because you made
어둠으로
a
가십니다.
vampire movie afterwards.
뱀파이어 영화.
You were raised Catholic. I think that
심으시는데.
your local clergyman, when you were young, said to your mother that you would make a good priest. I wonder how kind of autobiographical is Thirst.
예.
이게 얼마나 자서전적이니까.
그러니까 사실 그런 적이 있었어요. 동네 신부님이 우리 심각하게 정말 우리 부모님을 찾아와가지고 할 말이 있다고 찾아와가지고 신학교를 보내라는 거예요. 제가 그때 중학생이었는데 소신학교라고, 그러니까 고등학교 때 이미 이제 신학 과정을 시작하는 그런 학교를 보내라는 거죠.
So it's all true. Our local priest came by our house one day, all serious, and he wanted to talk to my parents, and he told them that I should be sent to a seminary, that I would make a good priest.
그래서 추기경감이라고 그렇게 말씀하셨답니다.
He said the boy would become bishop one day.
그래서 그때 그 얘기를 듣고부터 제가 성당을 안 나가기 시작했고요.
So after I heard him say that to my parents, I stopped going to church.
그러나 그 어렸을 때의 경험이라는 것은 항상 깊게 각인돼 있게 마련이잖아요.
But you know how childhood experiences they are engraved in you.
그래서 그 신부와 성당에 관한 그 이미지들은 항상 언제나 마음에 깊이 남아 있었죠.
So all these images of priests and the Catholic churches, they'll always remain in my heart.
그리고 뭐 여기를 뭐라고 하는지 한국에서는 상본이라고 하는데 이게 작은 종이에 그 성화들이 아이콘이라고 하나 성화들이 인쇄된 그런 것들이 아주 뒤에는 뭐 기도문이 적혀 있고 그런 그런 것들이 참 많았는데 거기 그려진 그 각종 순교 장면들 있잖아요. 모든 성인 성녀들의 순교 장면들 그 이미지 아주 깊이 박혀 있었습니다.
And there were all these little cards where on one side you would have all these paintings, pictures, and on the other side they would print different prayers. There was a term for it in Korea. I don't know what you guys call it here. Icons, would you say? But yeah, so these were all the scenes. These paintings, what they would be about is these are all the different scenes of martyrdom. All these saints who have met their death because of their faith.
아시다시피 그런 그 성인 가톨릭 성인 성녀들의 그 순교 장면이라는 것은 굉장히 폭력적이지 않습니까? 되게 잔인한 고문 끝에 죽이고 하는 거니까.
As you all very well know, these scenes of martyrdom, all these saints when they died protecting their faith, it involved incredible amount of violence, and they were really cruelly put to death.
각종 고문과 처형의 그 기술과 그런 것들이 자세하게 아주 실감나게 묘사된 그림을 어렸을 때부터 보고 자랐으니까 제가 이렇게 폭력적인 영화를 만들게 되는 것은 다 카톨릭 때문이라고 해도 과언이 아닙니다.
Since I grew up from when I was very young, with all these images and pictures of all these saints going through such a variety of tortures and these techniques of execution on display on these cards in such realistic detail, that if I'm making all these violent movies, I blame it all on the Catholic Church.
특히 제 인상에 깊이 남았던 것은 세바스찬 성인이 벌거벗고 이렇게 기둥에 묶여 있는데 온몸에 화살이 여러 방향에서 날아온 화살에 꽂혀 있는 그런 그림들이었죠.
One image that I still remember to this day most vividly is the picture of Saint Sebastian. He's all stripped naked and he's tied to a post, and all these arrows which have been shot from every direction are stuck in his body.
그 이미지가 박쥐에 직접 나오진 않지만 이런 박쥐라는 영화를 기획하는데 첫 번째 출발이 된 것은 사실입니다.
Now that image isn't featured in Thirst directly, but it's certainly an image that provided a starting point for the film.
그리고 이제 두 번째 그 원천은 뭐냐면은 제 아까 말씀드린 버티고 보고 나서 만났다는 그 와이프가 저 만나기 전에 사귀었던 사람이 신부였다는 거죠. 나중에 그러니까 그 사람이 신부가 됐다는 겁니다. 신부가 되느라고 이 여자를 버린 거죠.
The second inspiration really came from that young woman who I met at the screening of Vertigo, who was my wife by this time, and she used to go out with this man who would go on to become a priest, and she was dumped because he wanted to become a priest.
그래서 그 신부가 되려고 여자를 버린 남자에 대한 생각을 계속 하고 있었어요. 그래서 결국에는 반대로 여자와 사랑하느라고 사제직을 버리는 남자의 얘기로 이 영화에서는 바뀌었지만 어쨌든 그것이 하나의 원천이 됐습니다.
So that made me thinking about a man who would abandon a woman to become a priest, and it kept me thinking. Although I ended up making a film about a priest who would abandon his faith to become because he fell in love with a woman, which was quite the opposite. But nevertheless, it provided some inspiration.
예, 근데 뭐 참고로 하나 말씀드리자면 그 신부는 제 와이프를 버린 그 신부는 지금 굉장히 훌륭한 거룩한 신부님이 되어 있다는 사실을 밝혀두고 싶네요.
But just for your information, that priest who dumped my wife, he went on to become a very holy man. He's
But not a vampire. Okay, it's time for the next clip. This is from Stoker. It was your first American movie, your first English language movie. Had Hollywood been trying to get you for a long time? And why this film? Briefly, please. And you had trouble with
올드보이 때가 2004년에 칸 영화제였는데 그때부터 미국 사람들을 만나기 시작했고 각본을 받아서 읽기 시작했는데 그 중에 제가 할 만하다고 생각한 첫 번째 각본이 바로 이거였죠.
So ever since Old Boy, which was 2004, since Cannes, people from America wanted to meet with me, and I've started reading a number of different scripts. But of them, the first one that I thought that I could do was this one.
그리고 일을 할 때는 처음엔 좀 당황했어요. 그 스튜디오의 임원이라는 사람들이 이런저런 의견을 보내는 것을 겪으면서 한 번도 한국에서는 해보지 않은 일이었기 때문에 깜짝 놀랐죠.
So when I was working, I was really surprised and flabbergasted at first because people, these so-called studio executives, would come up to me with different opinions, this and that about the film, and it wasn't something I ever experienced before.
그래서 뭐 처음에는 싸우기도 많이 싸우고 막 정말 때려치고 싶다고 생각한 적도 많고 그랬습니다.
And we would even argue a lot at first, and I even thought that I had enough. I want to give it all up.
근데 차츰 그 일도 뭐랄까 적응이 되더라고요.
But gradually, I got to adapt to this process.
이걸 감정적으로 생각하지 않고 아주 이것이 이제 관객들, 내가 이 영화를 그냥 내 마음대로 만들었다면 미래의 관객이 이 영화를 보고 뭐라고 말할까? 이런 장면 너무 길어요. 뭐 이런 장면은 왜 설명이 없죠? 라고 할 만한 그런 종류의 반응이다. 그걸 내가 미리 듣는 거다. 라고 한번 여기기 시작하니까 그다음부터는 그런 감정이 사라지더라고요.
So I started to stop taking it, having this emotional reaction to this, and started to think that these are the reaction from my future audience. In other words, say if I had wanted to make the film just the way I want, and if it was released, these are the future audience who would see the film and who would ask the questions like, this feels too long here, or this needs more explanation here. And I just considered these notes as being those future audience reaction that I'm hearing before the film is completed.
그래서 그런 논쟁을 통해서 나의 것도 아니고 그들의 것도 아닌 제3의 의견들이 더 좋은 것들이 많이 나왔어요. 그리고 중요한 것은 그것이 다 내 머리에서 나왔다는 것이죠.
And through these process of discussions and arguments, we would arrive at solutions that are neither mine nor theirs, but I would always come up with another third option, which would always come from myself.
그 결과 제가 아무 누구의 의견, 그러니까 스튜디오에 무슨 그런 의견을 받지 않았다면, 제 마음대로 만들었음직한 그런 영화와 비교했을 때 훨씬 나은 영화가 나왔다고 스스로 생각합니다.
And I believe that compared with a situation where I didn't get any notes from any studio executives and made it just on my own, compared with that version, I believe I ended up with a version of the film which is actually superior.
So we've got 5 minutes. We still have to do The Handmaiden.
아가씨
So we're not going to show a trailer. You can watch it online. When you first read the book, you weren't aware there was a BBC adaptation of it. Then you saw the BBC version and decided to relocate it to Korea and Japan in the 1940s. Had you initially intended to set it in Victorian England when you first read it, before seeing the BBC one?
BBC 영화를 보기 전에는
예, 그렇죠. 당연히 뭐 특별한 문제가 없는 한은 원작대로 만든 생각을 제일 먼저 하는 게 자연스러울 테니까요.
Yes, of course. Unless there are any issues, the first thought that comes to your mind when you read a book is to try and be faithful to where it's set.
더군다나 그 세라 워터스가 묘사한 그 시대의 생활상 그 묘사들이 너무 생생하고 자세하니까 그것을 이렇게 뭐 버리고 다른 데로 간다는 것은 참 아까운 노릇이죠.
Especially when Sarah Waters had done a tremendous job of describing these locations in such a vivid and detailed manner, to discard all that and create something from scratch, it would have been a waste. Well, it would have been a waste to discard all of that.
But then you had to discard all that and start again. Can you just talk a little bit briefly about that period and why you set it then? And then there'll be one audience question because the guy who had his hand up first.
예, 그 제가 생각하기에는 원작에서 두 여자 사이의 사랑을 가로막는 신분의 격차라는 그 장벽에다가 이런 각색을 통해서 한 겹의 장벽을 더 세울 수 있다라는 것이죠. 다시 말하면 국적의 차이라는 거죠. 한국과 일본, 서로 미워하는 두 나라 사람들이 사랑을 해야 하는 그런 장벽을 뛰어넘어야 하는, 그러니까는 이 이야기가 더 드라마틱해질 수 있는 거죠.
So I was thinking that if I was to set it in Korea during that time of Japanese occupation in the 1930s, I was able to bring something additional to what's found in the original novel, where between the two women there is an obstacle that gets in the way of their love, and in the original novel that is the class difference. But on top of that, through this adaptation and setting it in Korea during that time, I thought I could bring in one more layer to it, one more obstacle that stands in the way. It's their nationality, in that one is Korean, one is Japanese, and these are two nationalities who hate each other. So for them to, for these people who are supposed to hate each other to find love, to overcome all of those obstacles, I thought it would make for a more dramatic love story.
예, 사실 제가 일하는 사람들은 되게 고정돼 있고요. 스토커의 경우처럼 이제 미술 감독이 새롭게 영입된 경우도 있지만 어쨌든 되게 그렇고, 촬영 감독이든 미술 감독이든 또는 음악가까지 포함해서 그 사람들과 아주 초창기부터 작업합니다. 다 친한 친구들이고, 각본은 물론이고 이 기획을 할까 이 영화를 만들까 말까 논의하는 그런 것부터 상의를 하기 시작하죠.
So everyone that I work together with, they're basically the same group of people. There are exceptions, like in Stoker, where the production designer was someone I was working for the first time, but including the DP, cinematographer, the music composer, the production designer, all of these different heads of departments. I've been working together for a long time, ever since Old Boy, and we are very good friends as well. And so even if it's outside of work, we would spend time together a lot. And we basically work through from very early on through every stage of the production. So much so that even before I ever start writing the script, we would actually get together and I asked them about, any given idea. Shall I do this film, or I've read this book, you guys have a look at it, should I do it? That sort of thing.
Okay. I'm really sorry, they're shutting me down.
Oh yeah.
Apologies. Please put your hands together for Park and Wonder.